Thank you, Robin.
Welcome.
Thank you, everyone. It's a great honour to be here today, and I look forward to hearing what everyone has to say. Will be great. I'm starting with a short section called Sustaining the Family in Challenging Times. Through centuries, faith groups have valued the family for its role in the care, education, and guidance of children. And now science proves how critical it is to do just that, value the family. Children's needs today are no different from those of the 1920s, the 1950s, or any other generation. However, modern lifestyles can undermine the natural processes of family life. For the pressured and fast-changing, insecure, materialistic, overstimulating, and often screen-led environments of Western society denied the innate need of our little ones to travel at their own pace in their own time. I believe very strongly we should not leave our children in the wake of this turmoil. Parents have a very critical role to play to challenge and alleviate any ills of modern life. The family requires renewed recognition, respect, and support for the critical part it can and must play. Just a little here about my own biography. As an academic and researcher over many years, I've been aiming for neutral appraisal of evidence, and I'm a pre-social media generation, so I'm not used to communicating about myself. But just a few words of context here, I think. I look back on a long life teeming with children, and that's how I want it to continue. From a large extended family, in my late 20s, I went on to marry very happily, and we were blessed with a daughter and 3 sons. However, early widowhood forced me down a non-traditional route, well, for those times anyway, a single parent of 4 children, returning to academic study to build a new career. My youngest boy was 3 years old.
Wow.
He's here now, and he's a lot more than 3. My key aim at that time was to try to remain positive and help my children to build and sustain their positive lives too. And thankfully, so far, I've not been disappointed. They're all graduates with successful careers and secure families themselves. And the siblings are all there for each other, which gives me a profound sense of peace and contentment. But let's begin at the beginning. For her unborn child, the mother's voice and her rhythm of life is an acoustic and emotional link between pre and post birth. Then her touch, sound and smell are the warp and weft of early experience, reverberating through life. In my role as coordinator of the science and research group for the charity What About the Children, I access ever more research demonstrating the impact of environment on the emotional well-being of the under 3s. Here is the science, but everyday accounts too have much to tell us about the environmental nest that a mother builds and how it has impact well before her baby is born. For example, Jane, one of the mums I worked with at the Children's Club, told me, right the way through my pregnancy with Henry, I worked as a hairdresser. And once my baby was born, I noticed the sound of a hairdryer would have a calming effect on him. And even to this day, if I'm drying my hair, Henry, now a teenager, will remark, you know, Mum, I just love that sound. It makes me feel really calm. A little bit now about attachment. Early life is experienced through the lens of the first relationships, and secure emotional attachment with at least one parent, initially the mother, will be critical. The newly born have an inbuilt capacity to form attachments. It's a survival instinct driving the young to maintain proximity to the familiar and first relationship, and attachment behaviour is very intense between 6 and 24 months. The attachment status formed early on can impact on the young child's holistic development, inner security, resilience, and potential to form relationships lifelong. As the writer Philip Britts put it, the love of a truly caring parent is water at the root of the growing child, sustaining it through life. I believe strongly in the transforming alchemy of reliably available love. And the Harvard project in America, called The Developing Child, informs us from the science that children's development is built into the architecture of their brains, establishing a foundation for life, and it all begins with relationships. I think every human baby would like to say, "Dear parents, I want you to stay around me. I need you to be involved in my life, and you need me to be involved in yours." The nature-nurture debate. The case for committed nurture and reliable care is strongly proven through the developing areas of neuroscience and epigenetics. Be very clear, the nature-nurture debate is now settled. It's both. Numerous research studies show how the child's genes are in constant dialogue with its experiences. For example, a baby left with an unfamiliar carer, a simple saliva test can show increased levels of the stress hormone cortisol. If stress is persistent over time for a baby, it seems the very architecture of its brain can be distorted, if only in a small way, through the modification, even silencing of particular genes. As the scientists put it, epigenetic signatures are left on the genes for good or ill. Evidence is therefore so strong that loving and stable relationships with familiar carers, especially in the first 30 months or so, is the single most important factor for a strong foundation. Getting the early environment right is critical for emotional well-being and mental health lifelong. With its sound core from a state of dependence, a child will develop the confidence and resilience to move towards independence, and positive lifestyles will happen for a young person going forward. Just final thing on support for families. Carrying a baby for 9 months and then meeting the persistent needs of any young individual through to teenage years and beyond is not for the faint-hearted. When under pressure, parents can forget their child. Every child is a work of art and the embodiment of potential. Parenting is a needs-led enterprise, a child's needs, requiring supreme selflessness and watchfulness. Yet our 21st century context can undermine these qualities, and not least the values that parents would establish and sustain. But I feel that families can still massively shape society's direction. With positive role models lived out day by day, youngsters will develop notions of the good for themselves, for others, and the society of which they are a part. Freud explained how children, indeed all of us, can transform their natural id and ego in favour of superego, in other words, to be the very best they can be. As one Jamaican grandmother put it, obey the rules about how to live and then live. But families desperately need renewed recognition and support, and critically at government level. We need a Minister for Families to ensure that it's not the Treasury that dictates policy, but the needs of our next generation. It may seem far-fetched, but why not offer furlough arrangements to working parents, mum or dad in the first couple of years, to care for their own babies if they so wish, without the pressure of paid work to pay the mortgage? Why not? Furloughs have happened in these COVID times. Why not for children? But getting parents themselves to recognise how vital their role is may yet be another massive enterprise. Centuries ago, Aristotle said, the role of the shared life is human flourishing, and never more than in the shared life of the family. Thank you.